So, hello, Thessa, Sophia.
Hi.
Welcome to Love Stream. Thank you so much for accepting this invitation, for jumping in so we can share, co-create together. I'm very excited for our conversation.
Yeah, me too. I'm honored. Thank you for inviting me.
So am I. I feel very honored, and I felt a lot of energy moving today.
Yeah, I feel that too.
I was listening to an interview that you have on your website. I do not know the name of the lady.
hmm
It was a very beautiful interview. You were talking a lot about the masculine and the feminine, how the feminine is movement, the masculine is stillness. So there, so many questions came up while I was listening to it.
Yeah.
But before we go there, I would like to ask you, because I know you shared, it was a very beautiful bio. I enjoyed reading your bio.
Mm.
Very in depth and just like navigating. I felt like I was navigating through you in your path, in your journey. Um,
Yeah.
so can you share a little bit about your awakening, your journey, and what called in your heart for you to offer your yourself to the divine in this way, to others, to hold the space for
Mhm.
others?
Yeah, that's a good way to put the question. Um, hmm. Yeah, I think when I was writing that bio, I was becoming very aware of the the journey and how at the start of the journey, I had no idea that I would be here, you know, 20 years later or something. When I first started meditating, it was just like I was like everybody else. I just wanted to try to quiet my mind. And, I had read Autobiography of a Yogi. So
Mm.
I don't know if you've read that book, but it's pretty
Actually, I haven't.
popular. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. And the great thing about Yogananda is that he doesn't just talk about meditation for quieting your mind and, being a better person. He shares about the amazing stories of the yogis of the Himalayas, having these cities and able to fight tigers and, teleport and be in two places at
Oh,
once.
wow.
And oh yeah, so that was exciting to me. I was like, I'm on board. I'm not here to just be calm. I'm here to do some exciting things. So that
Yes,
way,
I would say a lot more after that, but yeah, go ahead. Just that aspect in itself, yeah.
yeah, I think it's a key thing because especially in the non-duality movement, I experienced the non-duality movement as more like just become non-dual.
Yeah, I feel that that's the way that is being shared. But even from the beginning, I'll just say this, and we go
Mhm.
back to you sharing. Even from the beginning, I sensed, okay, there's something, there's something more into this, because we can't just.
Yeah.
I mean, you
We
can
might
if
we
it's
might as
true.
well be dead.
Maybe this is somebody's path, I mean, maybe
Yeah.
this is somebody's path, and you can. But for me as a woman, I have a lot of movement in me. I have a lot of energy moving.
Dancing. Yeah.
Yeah. So you read
Yeah.
the book.
So I read the book. That kind of started me on my meditation path. I had always been interested in healing, let's say alternative healing, nutrition and herbs and just everything alternative. So that was kind of my starting point 20 years ago. And then I went on this quest of developing a lot of different skills that just so happen to come together in a unique way for my offering now.
Mhm.
And I think the way that I would talk about that is there was a point when my path of meditation and my path of healing began to merge and merge and merge and merge and merge until I realized that the call for healing is actually a call for awakening in a specific area of our lives at a specific level of embodiment, you know?
Is that desire to merge with our true self.
Yeah, exactly. And to express that true nature through the physicality, through the movement. So but actually, you know, coming back to the monk archetype, which is kind of what we were talking about just, I did, that was an important phase for me. You know, I had to go into that. And that's like one aspect of the eventual full expression through embodiment, because we have to retrieve and realize what we are at fundamental levels in the absolute. And as you're doing that, it can look like you're being a monk for a while. So I definitely don't want to disclude that.
I so understand that, because I had, even this year, Chris and I, we both had like 3 months of very quiet and just contemplating and nurturing. You know, I really felt that it was the nurturing, developing the relationship with stillness, with just being, you know.
Yeah, it's really important. Yeah, so then I was actually working with a group of people who I consider it my shamanic training, because I was working with a teacher who had been trained in shamanism but was also an academic, and he had gotten his PhD in psychology. So there was a group of us I was on the couch for 12 hours a day sometimes doing research with this group, you know, and he would invite the inquiry, and the inquiry was usually in relationship to what's the cause of this particular disease at the cellular level, or what's the cause of this particular disease in time, as we would work with different people. And then we would go investigate that question through inquiry.
Okay, so now the curiosity. What did you find out? You know, because I'm so curious about that. Truly, you know. Yeah.
Okay, so what I found out, I found out a lot of amazing things, because I was with them for 2 or 3 years maybe, and we spent a good portion of time with someone in front of us who had something that they were looking to heal. And then we would go into the cellular level, work with something, and come back and ask the person, do you experience a difference? Yes, no, maybe. And so through this investigation, we found a lot of really interesting things. But what made me eventually part from that group was there wasn't a strong focus on awakening. And
was it the vicious cycle of healing?
Yes. So then because there wasn't a strong focus on awakening, you got it. There was this continual, something would be healed and it was amazing. You know how when you heal something and then it's like, what else can I heal?
What else can I fix? Because I'm broken. Inherently.
Exactly. What else can I fix because I'm broken? And in fact, my teacher was very, he didn't hide the fact that he felt like humanity was messed up and we were here to fix them. And that wasn't my, and it got to the point where he was offering healing processes that would supposedly fix like MS or schizophrenia or something, and he wanted to charge $10,000 or $15,000 for the thing, and I was like, I'm out, because that's just not, first of all, it didn't feel like it matched my own goal, but second of all, I didn't see it as I didn't think that it would work.
Okay, I'm already like loving this conversation so much, because I had a very, very similar experience actually with a shaman teacher as well.
Oh, tell me about it.
I felt that, you know, I could really see. And at the time, actually, it wasn't very long ago. And at the time, I wasn't still very sure of my own intuition, of my own knowing. And I doubted it a lot. So, but eventually I was like, okay, I see that there is a little bit of like, you know, how can I say this in a way that is still respectfully? I could see that there was something that was coming from fear and scarcity in a way that I have a family that I have to support and I have a family that I have to feed. Therefore, I need to make programs, right? So in a way, I could sense that the knowing was there of the awakening. But there was a little bit of the separation, the feeling of lack is still lingering. And that was showing in the teachings, and then I felt, okay, this is no longer for me, you know. And I wanted to have the communication with the person because I'm very transparent. I like living this way, you know. It feels good in my heart, and I wanted to have a conversation, but it wasn't really received. The person wasn't really ready. So then I was like, okay, this is another confirmation for me to just you know, send my love and go on my journey. Right? Yeah. So ironically, it was interesting synchronistically that I then open up for teachings of self-realization right after, because I'm fairly new even to the term of self-realization, you know? I always had that knowing that, okay, it cannot be that we're broken forever. So it was just like those little pieces of the puzzle that kept getting confirmed. So I love that you're sharing this, because it's another anchoring, it's another grounding of this truth in a very powerful way. You know, I don't even know, is it working on Facebook? I don't think, okay, so it's not working on Facebook, so I'm so grateful that we're recording this, so then we can post it afterwards. So for those who are going to be watching this, I feel this is very important in this time now, Thessa, for this clarity to come forward. So then there, because there is this little bit of aspects that is too confusing in our spiritual communities. You know, there is the aspect that we will touch on later on in our conversation, which is I'm not the body. And there's the aspect of I'm broken forever, and let me keep fucking healing myself because I'm forever broken. So I'm really grateful for this conversation. So then you saw that, and then you decided to go your own way.
I went my own way, but I also went with these valuable tools that I had gained around inquiry and how to use inquiry in a way that wasn't at all heady, but allowed your body and the unconscious mind to respond to the inquiry and lead us into the union with nature, really, and to become an expression of nature. So
it's totally allowing.
Exactly. And that was one of the things that I was grateful for, is just learning a basic meditation that is based on acceptance, allowance, and surrender, and feeling what's happening in your body, which is really the recipe for being present. You know, so it's the practical experience of being present. Oh, I have a pain here. I have energy moving there. There's, you know, whatever is happening in your body is always keeping you present. And the acceptance of that and the allowance and letting it become something new gently unfolds nature through your bodily experience. So, and that's the foundation that I use today still. But when I left that group, I was actually working still at the cellular level. And then I left that group. I couldn't break through the cellular level. I had been all around the cell. I mean, literally, I was in the cell, like looking at the DNA, replicating, you know, watching how things work when someone moves an arm, or when there's MS, or when there's schizophrenia, you know. So I was really geeking out at the cellular level, but I thought it was obvious to me. I kept going deeper and deeper and deeper into the cell, and I couldn't find the causal level in the cell. So, and that was, you know, my main inquiry around health is, what is the cause? What is the cause? It's always been that. What is the cause? And the more you ask that question, the deeper you're taken.
Yes.
And in this, that was actually another thing that I'm thinking now. When I was with this group, there was the idea that there's not just one cause. The cause has to be multiple, or the cause has to be a moment in time, or the cause was never singular. And when I found myself hoping that there was a singular cause, it was like, oh, you're just dreaming with the unicorns, you know. There's not one singular cause that you can just go boop, and everything goes back to normal. But I eventually discovered that that's kind of not true. It's not necessarily that simple, but there is one singular causal experience.
Drum rolls.
That's the teaser. That's the teaser for later.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. So I went on this quest of, okay, I have to find the cause, right? So as soon as I left that group that was focused on finding the first moment in time and going to the cellular layer, I broke out of the cellular layer and I went to the atomic layer. And I didn't know where I was for a couple of months, because I'm just there looking around like, what's this, you know? And I'm unifying myself and healing. And then one day I see an atomic symbol and I'm drawing it in my notes, you know? And I thought, what is this? I'm drawing it, and then I realized, holy crap, I just drew the atomic symbol. I'm at the atomic layer, and that's where I've been working for the past 3 months or something.
Oh, wow.
So I kept going, and I kept going and kept going until I eventually, when you get into the atomic layer, you can actually look down and see the earth. So when I found myself looking at the earth, I realized, oh, I'm in the aspect of myself that represents this plane of existence, right? And
it's profound.
It's really profound. I spent years doing this. I hope no one else has to do this. I mean, you can if you want to, but I was kind of reinventing the wheel. And when I looked down at the earth, I thought, wow, this is amazing. And I could tell the cellular level that I had been working on was more at the surface of the earth, you know? And so then I thought, well, what's behind me? And I spent years going into the sun and unifying. So what I would do is I would feel back in space, and I would stop wherever I felt a blockage come up in myself. So I spent a lot of time between the earth and the sun, just unifying my own psyche, my consciousness, and healing. And then through the sun, into the sun, through the sun, out the other side, through the wormhole. There's a wormhole in the center of the sun that goes bloop. You go out the other side, then you repeat the whole thing till you get to the center of the galaxy, then the whole other thing till you get to another center. And then eventually I had to come back to the earth and go into the core of the earth, where there's another black hole. And that was me in the process of healing my psyche and unifying the unconscious and conscious.
Yeah, because this is so as you were traveling and as you were going through all of these different layers, I mean, what was actually unfolding for Thessa, you know, on the emotional level? And because I know I'm just beginning some travels, and there is like massive transformation, massive awakenings, massive, like, holy shit.
Yeah.
It's like, how do I even put this in words? What is this? You know, like, because my human mind, I mean, this is not comprehensible for the human mind.
Yeah. Well, okay. So that's the thing about my mind, seems to kind of understand eventually, you know. I sit in it until the understanding comes.
Oh, okay. Oh my gosh. Yes. Okay. So,
So
you were unifying, you were merging your mind. Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so for example, when I busted through into the atomic layer, I had the same experience as you. What the hell is happening? I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
There's all these things, I have to actually be willing to become something completely new in order to be shown what that aspect of creation wants to express through me. So I have to completely unify so that I can become a channel of unique beingness for that aspect of creation, right? And in order to, and with that comes the understanding of that aspect of creation. It's kind of the final step, really. The final step is the understanding.
Okay, so then the insights that I'm receiving from this is okay. So I'll allow myself to have this, oh holy, you know, what the fuck is this, and I'll sit with this, because
yes.
thank you.
Yeah, and really the acceptance and allowance and surrender is the simple key to, because the unfolding is happening by itself. You don't have to really do anything but let it, right? And it helps to also see what's there and allow it, so that you're honing your awareness too. So through this process, your awareness is getting more sensitive, your awareness is leveling up, because it's being shown what it couldn't see before.
I love this.
Right. So another important aspect of this is, as you go through the levels of transformation, at certain initiations, what becomes available is a deeper level of stillness. And that deeper level of stillness corresponds to a deeper realization of the self with the big S. So the self-realization that everyone is talking about is really about the realizations of stillness, and they come in phases and they deepen until there's eventually the ultimate realization of the absolute.
And with that, what I see unfolding in my day-to-day life is the transformation in how I interact with myself and with others in the world. Because it's this is the aspect that goes a little bit into the confusion that sometimes I see in our spiritual community, because there is a lot of concepts being used, and I feel deeply called that what our civilization is seeking, you know, I want to use the word needing, but not from a lack, but it's like that what is there, that it's that is bubbling up in our civilization, is the allowing ourselves to be with our feelings and allowing ourselves to be present to life in the way that is unfolding, and nurturing our power, our empowerment, because I know that we have been playing the other way around for too long, which is let's try to fix the physicality. Let's try to fix my partner. Let's try to fix the, you know, my co-workers. Let's try to fix my family, and let's try to fix myself. You know, it's all of that, but it's still on the external level. So this level of stillness that I feel, and today was it's been a very a day of movement, a lot of emotions feeling. And earlier I felt like I snapped at Christian, and then I went in meditation, and then I came back and I told him, you know, this really doesn't feel like it's my you know, what my heart really wants to communicate with you. But this is something that I feel that is very important, Thessa, what you're speaking of here, because this level of stillness, it's like it shows in the way that we're embodying ourselves on earth. How are we living the life here in the physicality?
Yeah.
Because if we're sitting in meditation in and om for I don't know how many hours a day, but then if we go out and nothing in our behavior changes in the way that we are interacting, then this is and this is also a question for you as to what are your an insight that you can give for those who feel like oh, I sit in meditation, but then I go and I don't see, like, you know, there's no changes, you know, either changes in myself or, you know what I mean? Like the embodiment. Or per se, as you're working with your clients, to clarify the question, as you're working with your clients, what ways do you, what is your approach for this embodiment, right?
Yeah.
Because this is something that actually attracted me for the conversation with you, because I have been observing, I can't remember since we are friends on Facebook, but I was just observing that every time that you post, there is this stillness with a movement in your vibration, right? In your post, that is just like, oh, it's so beautiful. And I see the way that you interact with your daughter, or sometimes you post something about a relationship, and I'm just like, oh wow, this is an actual embodiment of what everybody's talking about, you know?
Yeah.
So
Thank
it's
you.
very beautiful. So please, you remember the question?
Well, I was, you know, I'm also having this experience. Every word you say, there's like worlds bursting in me, and then you keep talking. I'm like, wait, worlds bursting, worlds bursting.
Yeah.
So I'll try to. Let's do a 24-hour talkathon. Yeah. So, but I'm glad you narrowed it down to that question, because it's an important one. So for me, actually, I want to come back to when I was doing all of this exploring.
Yeah.
It was the long way. And eventually what happened is all of that boiled down to something very simple. And the simplicity of that is how I start every session with someone, no matter whether they've been working with me for 10 years or the first time. We always start the same. And that is, what is happening in your body? What are your physical sensations as the foundation? And then we take the time to really taste, like a fine wine, each physical sensation that's happening. Then we start to include emotion. And then as you're feeling the emotion, you notice what physical sensations highlight with the emotion. You're including your thoughts, your judgments, all of it, vision, sounds, any sensory experience. We're really opening the field and allowing everything to be there. And we're noticing the physical sensations that go with it. And as we do that, we're just accepting, allowing, and surrendering. That's the beginning. And what that beginning does is it constantly brings you back to your body. It constantly shows where your being is moving, how it's moving, what it would like to express, what it can't express. And when you start with that in sitting meditation, then the natural thing is to bring it into your daily movement. When you're talking on the phone and you're feeling your physical sensations, you're noticing the emotion. You know, in the beginning with people, it takes some time and sitting practice, and it takes practice, mindfulness practice of, now I'm cutting a grapefruit. What are my physical sensations? What are my emotions? But this creates the constancy in awareness through all different kinds of practices throughout the day.
Be really present.
Right. It teaches you the practical aspect of being present. Now, the thing that I haven't included yet in our conversation, which is the next step, and it's super important, is that once you tune in and allow all the sensory activity, then you notice what is completely inactive in relationship to your body. So it's always body centered. In relationship to your body, what isn't moving? What's calm? What's still? What's absent? Because the stillness can show up in lots of different ways, and it can change presentation as you go. And the simplicity of what I discovered was, as long as there is a separation in space between the deepest level of stillness and the activity will show up incoherently, which means it creates disease and it creates suffering. So if you know that, it's very simple. You just go through the process of allowing what is completely and utterly still and what is active to merge. And when that merge happens, it creates a state of coherence, or you could say it creates an ecstatic state. It creates an unfettered expression of true nature that is unique to you.
Does that mean do you feel pain at all?
Oh, yeah. So yeah, I think what you're pointing to is people tend to equate pain and suffering.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because I experienced this merging of stillness and movement so deeply in the most painful moment I had in my life, which was during a miscarriage that I had last year, and during complications. There were so many complications in my digestive system and whatever was going on. Heart was stopping, so it was intense. It was super intense. And because my heart was stopping, the doctors couldn't give me anything. So I just laid there, right? And my body was literally like on fire with pain. And I remember staring in Christian's eyes and just feeling this stillness, which to me was like this deep peace.
Yeah.
Like the body, my body, I was in pain, but there was this deep peace, Yeah. So is this what you were referring to is this what you're referring to? That then it's not suffering.
Right. So there's phases to the unification process, right? When you're in touch with that deep peace and you have a really strong experience of the activity, and when they start to merge, you'll go through phases. The reason that they're not merging is always a sense of self that's keeping them apart. So
such as I am the one feeling pain, something like that?
Yes. I am the one feeling pain. And it can be as simple as that. It can be more solid, like I always have pain, or but very on a simple level, it's I have pain.
Identity.
Yes, that's identifying with the pain, as in I am the pain, or I'm here with the pain and I'm not the other thing, or I'm not everything else. I'm just pain. I'm just pain to the exclusion of something. That is identification, which blocks the full expression of your unique being, right? So once that's realized, and when you were in that moment, the way you described it was really beautiful. You could recognize the stillness that Christian was making apparent to your being. And you can bring in the fire of what's happening in your body. When you notice I in that moment, and you allow I together with the stillness, it shifts, and the two of them come together in space. And you have to, sometimes it just goes boop, and other times it's like, and you keep surrendering your sense of I. And the more you do that, the more you gain mastery over your physicality. So the more that you're being from true nature, not from a sense of separate self, from your true nature, grabs a hold of the body and goes, this is now our experience, and moves it into something that's beautified. So usually what that looks like, it's not that pain isn't beautiful, because it can be, but usually what that looks like is the spirit takes the body in disease or dysfunction and beautifies it and creates health.
That's beautiful. That's profound. That's like my goosebumps have goosebumps. And I feel, I just have this deep knowing that this is what that our civilization, that we're like in the cusp, on the brink of actually uncovering this for real, because we have created so much resistance with what we have labeled as suffering, which in my understanding and experience, these are our opportunities to expand. Because we have created so much resistance, there is so much disease and so much what we call suffering. And as we allow spirit life to move through us, that's where the beauty is in, is what I experience, is that, oh wow, you know, you can, an example is living here in Switzerland. And I can remember when we first spoke, if I mentioned this to you, that coming from Sedona and arriving here, I felt very conditioned. I felt like I was conditioning my joy, my peace, my serenity, my stillness. I was conditioning it, right? I attached the I there to condition it to whatever was the circumstances here, which the energy here is different. For me, it felt different. Actually, right now, it actually doesn't, because I changed my attitude. But this is the aspect that is beautiful with what you are saying, because I just became aware of what was actually unfolding, that I was in resistance and that I was fearing. I was afraid. And then I just I began looking at everything as, okay, this is also an aspect of me. The way that that it worked beautifully for me was by that unification. This is also me. This is, this is source. This is God. This is me. This is source. And all the things that I was looking with so much resistance, and then it just cracked me wide open. That I felt like myself. I felt re-energized. I felt centered. I felt grounded. I mean, has anything changed? No. And yes, because of it is completely different, right?
Yeah.
So now I can walk in the mall. I got the power.
Yeah, and that change in yourself is what creates changes in the environment around you, and then people respond to you differently, and the materiality responds to you differently, and
absolutely. I mean, I went from people stepping on my toes and elbowing me because I was so scared I had to protect myself and stuff, to now, everybody's on their space and there is openness and smiles.
You just shared a beautiful example of what it's like to move from identification and suffering into magic. That's how I would put it. And so actually my work is just about that process that you mentioned. What I notice is, it's not that I do that with people. When you sit in acceptance and allowance and surrender of what's happening, and you notice any separation between the stillness and that activity, nature does that for us. It brings us into the magic by itself.
That's why spending time in nature, it's also so harmonizing, because it really helps us remember. For me, it's like that. When I'm in nature, it really helps me remember the harmony, right? The seasons, the harmony in nature, everything is just moving and getting accomplished and so alive.
And embodied.
Yes. Yes. Beautiful. And I have questions.
Okay, I'm ready.
Do you want to share more about your, but I also don't want to stop you.
No, I mean, I could talk, but I don't need to. There's nothing wanting to be said right now.
Yeah, I wanted us to go a little more in depth, a little deeper into why do we create trauma?
Good question.
And even deeper than that is why is our civilization is still choosing evolution through suffering?
Yeah, well, I can share what comes up for me when you ask that question. When I was in the healing paradigm and we were working on fixing, fixing everything.
Yeah.
I eventually came to that question, and what I noticed was I would heal something in myself, or somebody else would heal something in themselves, or we would do it simultaneously. And then they would go and recreate the thing that needs healing, or they would create something else that needs healing. And so that's what brought me to the question. It was like, whoa, wait a minute, we dealt with that. Why is it back? And there was a need somewhere. There was a need to have it that we hadn't addressed. So then my question became, well, what is that basic need? Why do we keep creating trauma? And that was a very fruitful inquiry for me. Eventually going through all of the layers and visiting how nature expresses itself from the subtlest to the grossest, because it changes, the expression of nature looks different at the subtlest layer of who we are and at the most embodied layer of who we are, or the grossest layer of who we are. What I saw was the value, each level that I went into, there was something that needed to be healed. And I could see that when I healed it, I gained being. So the process of my being actually gained charge, gained power, gained clarity. And I could see that I wouldn't have that gain without having to go through something to heal, So, and I think that's where my experience is, that's where humanity is right now in general. And because we're each an aspect of humanity and our own personal process, it looks like we keep approaching suffering to heal. And that suffering then allows us to gain more beauty until eventually all of those layers within us just collapse and they unify and they move together, and then we bust out of that paradigm and we move into something else.
Yeah.
But it's useful. It has a place, and that gave me a lot of peace. Suffering has a place. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's beautiful because it has that place. And if we hold it within the greater context, then it has a chance to transform and merge and become something else, as opposed to just sticking there and staying what it is.
Absolutely. Yes. Really have to, it's shifting. It's almost like that, what's the name of that square? The cube that has all those little colors that you put together?
Rubik's Cube.
Yes, it's like shifting everything. So it's in a perspective that is working harmoniously.
Yeah. That's a good example. You can't get to the solution of that cube until you've gone through all these like awkward positions of the whole cube.
Yeah. And I think sometimes sometimes we want to rush the journey. We want to rush the processes. We want to rush whatever it is unfolding for us, and in that we create even more. But then we also miss into the presence of it, into the being in it.
Yeah, the beauty of what's happening now, because it's going to change really quickly. So, you know, every moment has a medicine, right? And if we're there to taste that medicine fully, it informs our being to something greater. Even if it's painful, it's still medicine that really has the potential to allow us to evolve. So I think having that attitude about it is really helpful.
Yeah, very, very helpful. If not crucial.
Yeah, right? Well, I think, and one of the things that you just talked about is, for me, goes into attachment and non-attachment. That's kind of the way that the yogis or Hindus talk about it. And that's really identity, you know, it's about, I would like this outcome, and so how can I make that happen? And if you allow yourself to realize that that's the experience, let yourself do it. And then look at, well, what is it that wants the outcome? What is it that's needing something there? Bring it to the forefront. Let it have the stage. Let it express itself. Feel it with stillness. If there's any unification that wants to happen, the stillness has a chance then to come in. And inevitably, the nature of the one who was wanting an outcome will change to be an expression of nature. And by definition, that means the stickiness goes and the flow comes.
Isn't it so powerful? Because it's through expression. It's not through suppression or through avoidance or through ignoring.
Yeah.
You know, ignoring. So, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, that's one of the nuances that I find working with people that's still hard for me to get across to someone who hasn't worked with me yet, is that difference. When you're in meditation, our tendency in like Western society is to go, this is happening within me. It's not right. I shouldn't be doing it. I shouldn't be feeling it. So I'll push it away, you know, or I shouldn't be judging it. I should stop judging it. So I'm going to make myself stop. And my invitation is, go, why don't you let it have the full stage? That judger, for example, let it become the judger. Let yourself really become the judger. You know? As if it's a player on stage that finally gets to express itself. What is the harm when you're in meditation and you're feeling, you know?
Yes.
Because it's only then that it gets a chance to see, oh, actually, I'm in separation from stillness, which the final realization of stillness is that it is fundamentally what I am. So when that comes in, it starts to be everywhere all the time and inhabit everything. So each time we're visiting stillness with like the judger or the hater, or, you know, the one who's in pain, or giving ourselves a chance to actually be that, it makes the invitation to the deepest aspect of what we are to enter and penetrate it and create a new aspect of being there.
Oh, wow.
That's fun. That was
that was like this big very refreshing. It's very refreshing, you know, and I can feel how it just goes, the words just goes like in so many levels, you know, it travels through. So the vibration, the the sound of what you're saying, just like it vibes and it just creates all these ripples, and it's so refreshing.
I'm really happy about that. I'm glad.
Because it is so true that we have been, you know, just yesterday I was talking a little bit with my brother, something similar with that, about I grew up in certain religions that it had that aspect of you should not do that. Do not be the judger, you know,
Yeah.
do not, you know, that's bad. This is very bad. And very, like, very disempowering and very, like, suppressing.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking a little bit about it, and he was saying that how much he is not resonating with that anymore, because he for a very long time he kept feeling that was right, you know, I'm a really bad person.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I have judgmental thoughts, if I have whatever it is that, you know, if I'm angry, or, you know, and that has been like a huge aha.
Yeah, that's amazing. You know,
For him.
people, and I think that people are just waking up to these things naturally. And it's related to the turn of the era. Something is happening in humanity where the light bulbs are coming on, and it's wonderful to watch.
It really is. It truly is. So I wanted to ask you about if you feel inspired to share, of course, only because you have a beautiful daughter. How old is Sia now?
2.5.
2.5. So for the moms, for the parents that are watching us, can you tell us a little bit about the way that you interact with her? Because I nannied before, I took care of children before, and I would not relate very well with the label of tantrums and with the labels of the terrible chews. Because I would feel like you would put a child in the box and everybody has emotions. So,
Right.
So how do you navigate in and the times where she has times that she has strong emotions coming up that is moving through her? How do you navigate through those times and stay present and in stillness and allowing her?
Right. So the first thing is I'm always watching my inner experience, first of all, because what I've learned through the years of working in this way is I can't actually experience another person in their true expression until I've come to a place of unification in myself. So, and otherwise, if I'm not in unification, my experience of them will be skewed, and there's more likely to be a projection on who they are, right? So the first thing is, no matter who I'm engaging with, I'm actually out of this phase, but I've been in this phase, and this is usually where people need to be, is no matter who we're engaging with, we're always referring back to ourselves. So the person's standing there screaming at you or hitting you or whatever, you're referring to yourself. You're not referring to them, which is most of the time we're thinking about them. They're stupid, they're mean, they're whatever, right? But instead of looking to them, we're looking back at ourselves, simply noticing, is there any separation between what's happening in me and stillness and my experience of self? So doing that practice will help you then come to a level of engagement that is based on your true nature in relationship to someone else. So that is fun. And that never necessarily means like there's a right way to do things and there's a wrong. It's spontaneous when your true nature is there and in complete expression. The expression of it depends on the person you're engaging with, the situation. It's unique in each moment. So how I can relate that with Sia is she is right now going through a period of, the way I've termed it is she's learning how to use her aggression, or, you know, she's learning how to work with aggression, basically.
Yeah.
And she has all this fire and all this rage, and Sia's got so much energy, and she's an extrovert, you know, that sometimes she hits and kicks. And I can feel and see, my sense of it is that she doesn't know what to do with the energy. She doesn't know how to,
Process it.
yeah, or even like, I don't want to say tame it. I don't mean as in a repressive way, but
No.
just,
Yeah.
you know, she doesn't know how to dole it out. It just goes,
Yeah.
and with that, it's flailing and arms hitting. And so the first thing is that I notice is different about my experience of parenting, and sometimes what I see others is I'm not taking it personally. So I don't make it about me, and I don't make it about her. You know, it's not like I'm a bad mom and that's why she's doing this, or she hates me and that's why she's doing this, or she's gonna be, you know, that's her personality, I can see it. I'm never like planting a stake in the moment that goes forward in time. I'm just letting her be how she is. Sometimes I notice difficult emotions arising in myself, and I let them be there, and then I let the next thing happen, you know. And Daniel, my partner, is involved too in this, so there's three of us. And when she's kicking and hitting and all three of us are around, we're all engaging, you know, in different ways. It just depends on what we're doing. So and my partner just happens to have like a natural instinct for what I share, so he does this in himself as well. And what it does is create space for anything that's not integrated to be there on the stage when all of us are there holding space. And the reason we're holding space is because we're holding ourselves, and that creates a holding space.
Wait. Stop everything. The reason we are holding space is because we're holding ourselves. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it always comes back to that self-referral. So when I'm engaging with you, if I'm actually referring to myself, I'm taking in, I'm not excluding you, you know, you're speaking and I'm hearing that, and then I'm looking, what's happening in me as she's talking, you know? What's happening in me as Sia is kicking me in the face? And I just let it be there. It doesn't have to be unified. It doesn't have to be suffering. It doesn't have to be beautiful. It doesn't have to be anything. It just is whatever my experience is. And that is what creates a holding space also for Sia, because as she's kicking me and I'm holding my sense of, wow, that was a kick in the face. How did that feel to me? It creates a space in her to go, I just kicked. How does that feel to me? What is happening in me? And over time, the process of her working that out within herself is cultivated, because we're both working it out together in that way.
This is, wow. That is very, very profound and powerful way of parenting. And I mean, I also, I can sense that it would, you know, the other question that I would ask, you pretty much already answered it, which is, do you ever get triggered in your relationship with your partner, and how do you react? So I think you just answered that, but if there's anything else you want to add.
Yeah, sure. It always comes back to self-referral. So when I say self-referral, I'm just referring to the way I described how we sit in meditation, really. But then when you take that into engaging with another person, if you keep doing that, you'll notice that what's happening in the other person and in the environment is always a reflection of what's happening in yourself, right? So if I'm in separation, my environment is going to reflect back to me separation. And that's going to include the way my partner is talking to me or not talking to me or whatever, you know. When I reach a place of unification within myself, and then I approach my partner from that place of unification, it creates a space for him to show up authentically, and then for me to engage with him authentically. So, yes, if I get triggered, then I just go, I'm triggered. And I've got whatever, I'm angry, you know, I want to yell. And sometimes I do. And the beauty of being with the partner that has an understanding of this is that they can, if they're referring to themselves, they can watch and listen to you scream and know, this has nothing to do with me. I'm not taking it personally. She's not actually coming at me personally. Where there's just experience, and it's not about who I am or who the other person is. That's super helpful, because in the process of integrating, as soon as one of you goes, this is who I am, that stops the whole thing.
Yeah.
And the flow of nature working itself out is inhibited.
Yes, it's resistance that we create, that resistance. It is very helpful, very, very helpful to have a partner that he's sitting over there with his eyes closed. He looks at me that understands, you know, and that we can learn together and grow together and hold space for each other and be and fall apart and become and unbecome.
Yeah, and sometimes you can't hold space for one another, and that's okay. You just go, you'd go into self-referral until you can, yeah.
I need to go take care of myself.
That's right. You know, a lot of, when I'm working with couples, a lot of thing that I notice is instead of going into a place of self-referral, they try to talk it out. So that they're in a place of, I noticed this about you, and the other person's going, I noticed this about you, and they just want to talk like you about you, about you, about you. And that doesn't work. It doesn't create long-term intimacy.
No.
So
it creates separation. Yeah. We experienced
exactly.
that, and we worked on that, and now we can be like, okay, there's something to be said. Okay, I will listen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead. So you work with couples in that way, and then
yeah, just what you said, when we learn to kind of come back to ourselves first,
yeah,
and then you don't have to, it's not like you have to be perfectly in unification. It's more like, can I be in the space with my partner where I can self-refer when they're sharing with me? Because if I'm listening to myself when they're sharing, and I'm sharing from what's happening in myself, then it's much more likely that we're not going to take things personally, and that we're going to be able to feel the other person. So what happens when you self-refer continually is that eventually there is no separation between you and whoever you're talking with or listening to, so that you start to feel the other person more deeply without filters. You can feel the most subtle, beautiful movements of their being. You can feel their strong emotions. You can feel what's happening in their body. And you know that it's them and it's not you. So ultimately there's this unique beingness in union. So there's union and there's uniqueness and individuality happening simultaneously. And that is the utmost creative potential for any relationship, as far as I'm concerned.
Totally. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. The power in relating in this way with everybody. I mean, the most powerful experience I had with my mom for the first time in my 40 years of life was last year in Brazil, when we had a moment of silence where actually it had to be silence because I lost my voice. I was visiting my family, and there was a stillness, and we were having lunch together. I invited her for lunch. I got a cold and I had lost my voice, and I told her I want to have lunch, but I can't talk. So can we be in silence?
Oh, that's
I was going through a process there. I hadn't been with my family in 5 years for many reasons. I needed to remember to love myself and remember to integrate that love, and so I could go back because there's so many traumatic experiences. So when I went back, so I had pain in my ears and I had lost my voice, and then we went out for lunch and we sat, and she sat across from me, and she wasn't familiar with eye gazing at all. And then I told her a little bit. I said, I just want to look at you a little bit because I can't talk, so I just want to feel you and be with you and feel your presence. And she was very resistant at first. She would look a little bit in my eyes, and then she would look around, and she was feeling shy, so it took her a little bit to settle. And then when she settled, that I could really look in her eyes, and this brings me to tears every time, because it's like the first time I could really feel my mom, and I could really feel how much she loves me. It was like so profound, so beautiful. I was like, oh my God, I never knew I could relate to my mom in this way,
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's a deeper understanding, because everybody is going through their process, through their journey, through their awakening, through their pain, and whatever it is that they're moving through in life. And as we have more of that understanding that it is not personal, then we can be with anyone.
And really see the beauty in every moment, even if it's painful or awkward or
hurtful. And allow each other to be, and allow life to unfold.
Beautifully said.
I have one more question.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Yeah, I'm ready.
What do you sense now, if you if you tune in for art, for what is unfolding, and are you feeling this shifts between a little bit of what we call as new earth, and a little bit of matrix old, and the shifting that way? And if you do have these experiences, this seeing, this sensing, what do you sense? What do you feel for Earth, for humanity, for civilization, for what's unfolding? But there is a lot going on.
There's a lot going on. I think the way that I would like to share about that particular question is a large perspective, like a larger perspective, as opposed to these are the things that I see happening. I can really sense what we were talking about before in humanity, how there's the stuff that needs to be worked out. At a certain point in the cycle of evolution for a particular phase, at the beginning, it can look very rough because you're just in all of the stuff that's keeping you from being unified in that phase, right? So that's when it looks hairy and difficult, and all the bad quote stuff is happening. And then as spirit becomes more available through the working out of that difficulty, it starts to infuse into the difficulty and transmute it into a beautifying phase. When you're about 50-50 in that process, that's how I see us now as a humanity. For for this particular phase. And so there's a lot on both sides right now. There's a lot of amazing beauty that's birthing, and then there's a lot of the old stuff that still needs to be worked out. And they need to marry, which is interesting. You know, they need to like make love and
the beauty and the beast.
Exactly. So in addition to that, I'm also, you know, I mentioned the autobiography of a yogi in the beginning, and my particular focus has always been, and even now, on what most people would call the superhuman, the exit of our current human, the entrance into new levels of physics through our body, you know, through our consciousness, which our body is an expression of. So I specifically noticed that there has been a ceiling on humanity that has kept us under capacity, you know, that I wouldn't say that it's lifted, but there's potential for it to start lifting. And I'm pushing that ceiling.
Yeah.
So I've reached the point in my own investigation, and we didn't talk about the mysterious past, but I'll leave that.
Well, you're gonna leave me curious now? All of us?
Well, okay. So remember how I was saying in the beginning that I was hoping every time I would think that there's this one source point for everything in our consciousness, then I would think, oh, that's just dreaming with the unicorns. Well, I found that point. So and I'm talking about it as a point, which is kind of not exactly true to its nature, but that's because it's mysterious. So its nature is always in flux, right? There is a point within each human where every aspect of their being arises immediately out of source. You can sit at that point and come into unification, and that is the most efficient way and the quickest way to move from lack of coherence to coherence, or disease to health, or move into beauty and magic, basically. So once you have access to that point in yourself, the shamanic traditions refer to it as the assemblage point. In the Hindu tradition, it's the very central point in the Sri Yantra, from which the whole Sri Yantra bursts forth in unification, which is the expression of being in full unification. It's where you can find the original separation of human that is ready to be bridged. So when that original separation is bridged, you're pushing that ceiling, pushing on that ceiling, because physics change, life as other people and as we have known it is open to be something completely new. And so that's that's where I end up with people through this process, because I've opened it in myself. So it becomes available when I'm working with people, is to take them into that place. And when you have multiple people working at that point within themselves, and they come into levels of unification, at the level of unification, there's a constant flow of true nature. And when you're in that space together with other people, you're at maximum creativity.
Does this feel something like a deep stillness, but also simultaneously it's almost as a vortex, a vacuum of some sort, a black hole of some sort?
Exactly. So the mysterious past kind of looks like the human eye. And in the center of the eye is the black. The black. That is the absolute. That's the absence of all things. It's the absolute unknowable. And out of that births being, right? And so the absolute unknowable is the ultimate formless, and the being is the form. when the two of them merge, that's the Taurus and the toroidal experience. It's not just one Taurus, it's many Tauruses moving together.
Yeah, and as it is if the way I have experienced is as it's almost as like all of existence is flowing through me. It's interesting to even describe it. It's just something very mysterious. Yes, mysterious is the word. It's just like that thing.
Can you feel it now, right now, in relationship to your body?
In this moment?
Mm-hmm.
As I am describing it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How would you describe the physical sensations that go with it?
It's almost like I'm spinning. It's a sensation of the body swirling.
Yeah.
If I'm dancing and moving and swirling fast,
like the Sufis.
Sweaty, are heavy, palms sweaty, and armpits sweaty, and lightness in the head, and just those are the sensations I feel. But it's almost like as if everything it's moving through me. I am moving everything. I don't know.
Yeah, that's great. You've gone into the investigation of what that is. Do you have a sense as you're feeling the movement, do you have a sense of stillness in relationship to that movement?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And how could you describe that with words, or?
I am that. I am everything. I am the stillness. I am the spinning around.
Yeah. Simultaneously.
So there's no distance of it.
Yeah. In space. They're inhabiting the same space.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Great. So every time you reach that and you sit in it, it will amplify until it reaches its peak.
Mm-hmm.
When it reaches its peak, it will collapse. So that through the collapse into disarray or lack of coherence, when that coherence then gains and you reach the torus again, it will have more facets and more power. So that's another way of experiencing why are we having suffering. When it collapses and there's awkwardness again, or pain or suffering, then you allow nature to put you back together again. You come into unification. That torus appears again with more facets within it because it's gained something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So is this what I know that many people that I was relating to a couple of years ago with some teachings of self-realization, they were feeling like they were reaching this point, but then when everything would collapse, they would feel this deep fear and a sensation of feeling not grounded and feeling confused, because then there was a little bit of, I think, identification with everything that was unfolding.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so because I remember that I felt identified with the confusion, and I felt identified with the pain. And what was arising. And then it took me a while again to
Yeah.
ground again. And I mean, being in nature was like essential for me, and really grounding again so I could experience it. But I didn't really become particularly afraid of it. I was actually very curious.
Yeah, it depends on each person at each phase, because whatever is keeping that flow from being constant across all points in time and all situations will have a chance to present itself.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think of it like that, then whatever is arising is unique to your separation.
Mm.
And so the way that I suggest people work with it is, if you've already accessed the toroidal state, which comes with an ecstatic state of bliss. So there will be emotional qualities to it, there will be mental qualities to it, and physical qualities to it.
Mm-hmm.
If you continue to tune into that, whatever is keeping it from being constant will arise. When it arises, like let's say it's fear, or you're just noticing, oh, there's a me here.
Mm-hmm.
Then you feel the me together with stillness, and or stillness is available in your toroidal state, right? So you feel the me and the toroidal state.
Mm-hmm.
The me has a willingness to be something new.
Mm-hmm.
So it's available for surrender.
Mm-hmm.
And the toroidal state consumes that me and turns it into something more beautiful, and that beautifies the thing to the next level.
Beautiful. I just wanted, if you can clarify, because I refer to what is the term you use? Toroidal? I can say
Toroidal.
toroidal. So what is it? I mean, the term itself, I refer to as like a black hole, as yeah, like a vortex, a vortex spinning. But where is that from? I actually never heard that term.
Oh, well, the toroidal is just what? An adjective for the torus. So the torus is the donut, right? So what happens is...
Oh, the donut!
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's just a descriptive word.
Yeah, I just, English is not my first language. I had never heard that.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's good to explain also, because people might not...
Yeah,
familiar with the torus and that
I love
terminology.
it. Absolutely. I thank you so much for the way that you shared, because it really brought a lot of clarity to I'm sure of also myself, and also I believe a lot of people that will be listening that were probably also experiencing similar things with the teachings. In this way we can remember to practice and embody.
Yeah.
And not really just live in the conceptual space.
Exactly.
So your website is heartbecoming.com.
Yes, heartbecoming.com, and also ThessaSophia.com will take you to the same place.
So Thessa Sophia, I know, is it Thessa Sophia that you have the art?
Yes.
So
yes.
You make those mandalas?
Yes.
You draw them? Oh my God, these are the beautiful. And then you sell was it pillows that I saw?
Yeah, I have a shop at Society 6, and Society 6 is amazing. They take your art and then just print it on lots of different products. So pillows and bedspreads and t-shirts and...
Wow, your art is so beautiful, really beautiful, very heart-touching. I love that. So for the art is ThessaSophia.com, and for working with you sessions, it's heartbecoming.com.
Well, Thessa Sophia and Heart Becoming will take you to the same place.
Okay.
If you want to see my art, people can go to... I'm really active on Facebook, so you can find me on Facebook, and there'll be my art, and also I have an Instagram account for my art. So
yeah, I found you there. It's beautiful. That's how I saw your pillows. and the parts that you have in the mandalas. I was like, oh my God, she makes that. This is amazing. So beautiful.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
pretty cool.
Um,
Well, I've had an amazing experience chatting with you. I've felt like all this creative energy, and that's beautiful. So thank you. Thank you for having me and having the conversation.
oh, thank you so much. I feel honored, and it's been amazing for me as well. I also feel a lot of energy moving. Just beautiful, beautiful co-creation. Is there anything else you would like to share as far? No, one more question. A small one. Is that okay?
Yeah.
What's the legacy? Would you like to leave a legacy for humanity, and what would that be?
That's a really good question. One of my favorite things that, I love Osho. He's one of my main influences, I would say. And he tells a story that I very much relate to, which is he's telling the story of, I think it's a Taoist master, and the Taoist master says, when you die, no one should be at your funeral.
I love that.
People, and if you think about it, it makes sense, because when the sense of I is totally gone, there's nothing to remember.
Yeah.
You're so embedded in all of creation that there is no legacy, there's no past, and there's no future. So there's nothing to leave. Everything is born anew in each moment. So when I'm gone, there will be some other aspect of creation that is doing something related to what I'm doing, and I trust in that. I don't actually need to leave a legacy.
Wow. That's like the the ultimate humble answer for this question. Like truly.
Well, it feels really good. It feels really good.
Yeah, I can feel it. Like I have tears. Thank you so much. It's been truly wonderful chatting and getting to know you and your work.
It has. Anytime you want to talk again, let me know.
Oh, this has been wonderful. Yes, I'm totally up for another one soon.